Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Regal podcast with me, Jordan Lewis, and today I am joined by Suveria Mota, a luxury vegan shoe brand owner. So first of all, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to give a quick introduction to yourself and what you do?
Sure, thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to be here. My name is Suveria Mota. I am currently a vegan shoe designer, and the plan is for the brand to grow into a vegan luxury lifestyle brand, as you mentioned.
Sounds fantastic. Your brand is definitely very unique because, as far as I can tell, you're one of the few fully vegan brands out there. So my question is, why do you think there are so few luxury brands that truly care about the treatment of the animals used in their products, as well as the people in the manufacturing? Let alone vegan luxury brands. Why do you think there are so few?
Sure, I think it comes down to the owners and the creators of the brand. There are, like you said, a lot of brands that offer vegan products within their range of products, but they do it for either a cost-effective measure to cut back on cost, or they do it because the customers are asking for maybe a vegan mascara, they're asking for a vegan shoe, leather-free options, for example, or fur-free, wool-free, etc. But it's never because the owner itself or the creator itself has the initiative from the very beginning to say we are fully vegan or we are fully cruelty-free from the very beginning. I think that for my brand, that's the core. I'm vegan myself, and so whatever I consume or I use, it has to be vegan. And then the luxury part is that before I started my brand, I started it because I was a consumer of luxury products and luxury high-end shoes. And when I didn't see that in the market, or when I made the switch to a plant-based diet and a vegan lifestyle, I still wanted luxury high-end shoes. And so the luxury and the vegan combined. I think to answer your question, it came from me, from the owner.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I see a lot of business owners, obviously, such as yourself, making decisions about their business based on what they want to see in the market. So why don't you think that there are other vegan luxury business owners like you out there trying to do the same or similar things to you? Why do you think you are one of the few in the market actually doing this and making this positive impact right now?
To start a business, it's a lot of work, a lot of commitment, not just the financially to make the investment. I don't know. I get a lot of messages from young ladies and customers saying, I'm so glad that you're doing it. I love your product. I enjoy it. But I don't know why vegan consumers spend money. They are not a demographic that is not affluent, that is not... There's a demand for the product. I don't know, to answer your question, why there are not other vegan business owners that are also in the fashion industry. I guess it's a small niche. To be a designer that's vegan, that loves luxury. I think we're like a unicorn, proudly. We're like unicorns.
Yeah, probably. So do you think then that an increased awareness of vegan production, vegan manufacturing in luxury products and especially fashion products, do you think that is going to be an increasing trend over the next few years?
Yes. The talk of sustainability and environmentally friendly practices. I mean, I remember when recycling packages was a thing. Non-vegan brands, there was a push to create packaging that was recyclable, sustainable packaging, like smaller bottles and smaller containers for the packaging. Then that moved on to ethical work practices for the garment industry. I remember when Nike had, a lot of people were telling Nike that they wanted their workers to be paid fair wages. now the talk went into sustainability and how do we create products that are low waste and no carbon emission and etc. And now we're moving into veganism. How can we create this product without the killing of animals? And yes, I think moving forward, that will be the thing now. Vegan fashion, vegan in the skincare industry, beauty industry, we see that plant-based foods have conquered the market in the supermarket. Vegan milk, vegan meat substitutes. Hermes now has a mushroom leather handbag. I mean, the fact that the brand that sells the most expensive handbags in the market is now making their own patented mushroom leather to compete in the vegan market. I mean, and they're innovators at what they do. The fact that they're also doing vegan a product, I think that answers, your question that moving forward, other brands will be vegan.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely seen that trend of, first of all, caring about human workers, and then, like you've said, touching on not just vegan products, but also actually caring for the welfare of the animal if they are being used in production. Animal cruelty, especially in like makeup brands, has been a big trend, a big move in recent years. So what do you think is the main factor driving this trend towards caring about the people and the animals behind products? Do you think it's a demand by customers, or do you think it's just a more ethical business owner that's kind of driving this change?
I think it's 100% demand by the customers. I mean, I don't think that the people that are in CEOs of companies really care at the end of the day for the animals, the environment, It's the demand of customers asking, is this cruelty-free? Is this vegan? Social media has pushed for brands to be more transparent. I mean, vegan YouTuber, for example, will say, oh, I don't want to use this product anymore because it's not vegan, it's not cruelty-free. And if this vegan beauty YouTuber has 5 million followers, for example, imagine the impact that does for a brand. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, that someone with a big platform influences a lot of customers, and then those customers influence those brands. And so I think it's demand driven by the customers. It's not someone on top going, oh, poor lambs, poor calf, poor bees, and, the beeswax, and,
Yeah, no, I get you, definitely. And I think most business owners are mostly motivated by the money element. So obviously if there's a lot of money going into vegan products and a lot of customers are demanding these vegan products, then they are at the very least more likely to lean towards producing products in an ethical and even vegan way. So yeah, no, I think you're definitely right with that. And obviously you said before, we're almost definitely going to see an increased trend of vegan products in the marketplace. I think that's absolutely correct. Do you think we would ever reach a point where the majority of the market are vegan products and ethically produced products? Or do you think that unethically produced products will continue to dominate the market purely because they can produce these products at a lower cost, or they can produce them at a higher rate?
I think it depends on the product. For beauty brands, for example, it used to be that you couldn't make a lipstick without using beeswax. And now we know, and chemists have been able to create wax from plants. And so to find a product in the beauty industry without beeswax, for example, is very easy to do with a synthetic material. And no one bats an eye. Candles, soy-free candles that are not that they don't use beeswax, for example. Soy candles. Down in comforters, for example, there's no feathers. Most people don't even think to buy pillows with feathers anymore. I don't know. I haven't in years. But I think that for some other products, the demand will still be there for non-vegan products for years to come, like shoes, leather shoes, small leather accessories like belts and card holders. Hermes is not going anywhere. People buying Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, leather, because these brands have a heritage. You know, they've been in the business for over 100 years, creating products with their own patented and their own, you know, brand, their creation. Their canvas leathers, for example. So to answer your question, it depends on the product.
Okay.
Not eventually, maybe 100 years from now, but not in 30 years, I don't think so.
Okay, makes sense. And do you think then the focus of vegan products, whether they be luxury or food or fashion or makeup, wherever they might be, do you think the goal of vegan products should be to replicate non-vegan products, but with these ethically sourced vegan materials and manufacturing processes? Or do you think they should instead try to create a equally good and equally luxury experience, but a different experience, and not try and replicate these non-vegan experiences?
Great question. You know, I love luxury brands, the history of luxury marketing and branding. I think that you can learn and also advance. You can take some elements from non-vegan brands and make it modern, make it more fast-forward. I mean, a handbag, you can add elements to it and so forth, but a handbag will always be a handbag, a shoe will always be a shoe. And yes, you can innovate. There's pineapple leather, there's apple leather, there's mushroom leather. There's so many new alternatives that I think vegan businesses and vegan brands, we can innovate in that regard, in the textiles that are used, in the materials that are used. But then also packaging, you know, nice, beautiful packaging, the experience that you get from buying from a luxury brand, going to the stores, being served champagne, having a sales associate, those elements, I think, then you want to keep it as the non-vegan brands and keep it very luxury.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Great answer. Okay, now moving on to some of the specifics. How can luxury brand owners begin implementing vegan and ethical practices into their production? What are some of these practical ways that they can start doing that?
I mean, they can hire someone in the top of the line positions that is fully vegan. Because a lot of people say that they're vegans, but they're actually plant-based or on a plant-based diet. Just quick for some people that may not know. Plant-based diet means that if you eat vegan or not, you don't eat animals, eggs, etc., because of your health and you care about your health and so forth. Whereas vegans, we don't eat animals. Yeah, our health is a part of it, but also be ethical. You're killing an animal is dying, an animal suffers for your cheese, your milk, eventually then leather, then the meat, etc. And so for a CEO to decide, sorry, what was the question?
Just basically, how can some luxury brand owners who wish to implement more vegan and ethical practices into their manufacturing, their production, their designs, how can they go about doing that practically?
Sure. Well, the textile, for sure. Change the fabrics that are used. Textile, ingredients that are used. There's, I don't know I'm not sure on the brand of lipstick, but in order to get the shade of red lipstick that many women have loved forever, required to killing a little insect to get that red coloring. Carmine it's called. And now they've found a way to make that synthetically. So now red lipstick can be made vegan, and that's because CEOs said like, oh, a lot of women are asking for a really deep shade of red, and we can only get it if we start making them synthetically, and here we are. Now we can do that.
So with, for example, let's use the handbag brand just to kind of keep with the examples we've been using. How can a handbag brand or even a vegan shoe brand like yours find a manufacturer or somebody who sources the materials they need and ensure that they are vegan and ethical? How can you kind of have a criteria to make sure that they are what you need?
Sure. In the textile business, for example, there are a lot of trade shows. If anyone ever is interested in starting their own brand, you source the fabric. You can source fabric from brands that only make textile that is non-vegan and vegan, so you can choose. And there are also manufacturers that make both, that make everything. And then when you find your factory, it took me a while to find a factory that wanted to make luxury shoes that were also vegan, because non-vegan shoes have traditionally been made in a non-luxury fashion. For example, I don't know, we have here in America Target, Walmart, even H&M, for example, fast fashion stores do sell vegan shoes that are on the lower end just because they're synthetic. So when I went to my factory, for example, and I said, hey, I want you to make, and I went to I looked all over. I want you to make beautiful luxury high-end shoes with synthetic man-made materials. And a lot of them looked at me, they smiled, they didn't even respond to my emails. Like, oh, no, we only work with leather, we only work with baby leather skin, etc. So it is a process to find the factories that want to do it, and then to work with suppliers that supply the materials that you also want for the brand.
Yeah.
Okay, I want the glue to be vegan glue for the boxes. And they're like, okay, we'll find them, and etc. It takes time because factories are used to doing things their way.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the resources and the processes ready for non-vegan production, and now obviously you've got a vegan brand coming in saying, oh, I need this to be vegan, this to be vegan. It's just extra elements they need to think about. Have you found then that with vegan and ethical manufacturers and suppliers, do they cost you more as the brand owner in terms of like financially? Are they more expensive?
No, they're not more expensive. I did pay to have an auditor to check the working conditions in the factory, but they're not more expensive. It's because it takes more time to find it. It's so much.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough then. So, have you found that? Obviously, I assume your business has always been vegan.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you run into many problems with you running an ethical, cruelty-free vegan brand compared to your competitors in the luxury shoe industry who maybe are less ethical, not necessarily unethical, but less ethical and maybe not vegan? Are you running into problems with trying to compete with these, or are you kind of managing to keep up with them?
No, I think, I'm managing to keep up with them. I think when you start, for me, for example, when I started my brand, I was very clear on how I wanted to reach my customers and point of sales that I want for my brand. I wanted to be direct to consumers. I don't want to wholesale at the moment. I want it to be straight from my end. I'm very interested in the packaging. I want my customers to receive packaging from me, the boxes, the whole shipping experience. And so, I think it depends on the brand, but I'm I don't feel that there's any any competition or a difference between the way a vegan shoe designer, shoe brand versus a non-vegan.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Specifically with, let's say there's a brand out there then that is very unethical, as in they use child labour, maybe, they pay below minimum wage, and they are able to just simply produce and create more than you can, as you are obviously working ethically. So you kind of need to guarantee this certain quality before you start producing. How can you compete against those brands, those that are willing to essentially sacrifice anything in order to just produce more than anybody else can?
I guess I'm not trying to compete with them. My niche is very specific, and I think that the customers that I have and that I have had, and I'm sure will keep gaining, understand the value in cruelty-free, in vegan, in the way that I present my brand. And even if I'm not selling 300 pairs a day, there is value to the fact that they know what they're buying, they know where it comes from, they know the love, the care, the attention that went into it, and they love that.
So you've almost changed the race that you're competing in. So you're not competing in a quantity race in how much you can produce. You're competing on this is the quality, this is the ethics, the quality, the care behind it that you're really competing on. So in your marketing, in your branding, your social media, how do you make that level of quality, that cruelty-free vegan appeal clear to your customers?
Definitely the copy that's used. You and I have talked about vegan luxury branding and marketing. Definitely the copy, the images that are used. I'm very cautious, and I pay a lot of attention to the images that we use that are released. We tell the customers constantly, vegan, cruelty-free, ethically made. It's on most of our touch points, on the website, on every caption that's written on social media, on our packaging as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're really paying attention to everything that you're putting out, and ensuring that kind of level of quality then. Yeah, sounds really good then. What do you just to kind of be more specific, what do you kind of look for then in an image, or what do you kind of make sure isn't in an image to represent your brand in the right way?
Okay, everything has to be perfect. I think you can tell that I am. I go on other people's Instagrams and social media, and if you're gonna say that you're selling a luxury product, I expect your images to be beautiful, to look cohesive, your Instagram feed, your email marketing. Just so that looks floppy, I guess. The good quality photography, good quality camera work, good angles.
No, that makes sense.
I did a photo shoot with a photographer, and she's great. The photographer's great. And I asked her if she had a model, a girl that could model the shoes, and she said, "Oh, I have my best friend." And I said, "Oh, that's great." Her best friend showed up to the shoot. Oh, I know, I feel like I should have said this. Anyway, we did the shoot, everything's great, and then I didn't love the images, and I didn't post them. So I made an executive decision. Yes, I paid for the images, but I wasn't happy. They didn't look very luxurious, and I didn't post them.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, with a luxury brand, it's the luxury feeling that matters most, and if everything that you're doing isn't demonstrating that fully, then it's just going to water down your brand. So I think you made a good decision choosing not to post them if you weren't happy with them, especially if it was for that reason. So, and I do think the good thing is as well, like obviously it's fantastic to get a professional photo shoot, but you can now as well. It's more accessible than ever to run a luxury brand and have access to high quality images, even with just your phone, because cameras are so high quality nowadays.
Oh my god, I use my phone all the time.
It's so good now, because like originally, you know, a luxury brand would have to be in a professional studio with the photography, with the video editing, with whatever else. What was that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I did that at first. Only high-end, great photographers. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, and photographers and videographers, they know what they're doing and can produce a high quality of content. But with, you know, if you've got an iPhone nowadays, just even one of the semi-newer models, even if it's a few years old, you can take really high quality pictures with just your phone. It's just a case of knowing the right angles, what to include, what not to include, making sure you check your background so that there's not, I don't know, a pile of clothes in the background or something.
A strand that you can see, or like a pickle of something. Make sure, even with your iPhone, you can Photoshop specs.
Yeah.
There's so many apps.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a case of knowing what apps are out there, what you can do, because there is so much you can do with a phone now. It's insane. It's a photo studio, a recording studio, and a sound studio all in one.
Exactly, and on top, and just to add on that, I have used Fiverr and Upwork to fix images that I have taken on my phone, but I wanted them to look more professional and high end and top notch and so forth. And also, you can hire a freelancer to work on your images and bring it up a notch if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fiverr, for the most part, they are so affordable. I mean, I used to actually work on Fiverr as a copywriter freelance. And yeah, like the services, the wide range of services that you can get on there is insane. You know, like you say, you've got photo editing, video editing, copywriting, like I used to do. You can build a website on Fiverr for less than 100. Like, it's ridiculous.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know about Fiverr until I was in the business, but yeah. I love Fiverr and Upwork.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't know about it unless you know about it. But once you discover things like Fiverr, Upwork, it's a game changer, really, because you can get the work you need for so cheap. It's insane. And you can get access to fully edited professional studio quality images for a $5, a $10, like it's nothing. So yeah, game changer. Okay. My next question then is, why and how did you get into the vegan luxury niche in the first place? Have you always been vegan, or is it something that you kind of discovered and changed your life and kind of altered it in that way? So yeah, I'm curious.
Sure. I was not always vegan. I don't know if there's a word for the opposite. Not just carnivore, but I ate anything and everything. I had sheep's brain at one point. I had pigeons. I had snakes, rabbits, whatever. I was that person, always very adventurous. Like, oh, let me try it. And then in 2015, I saw a documentary called Blackfish, which is about the treatment of the whales at SeaWorld, or not just the whales, but most specifically the whales at SeaWorld. And I had never been to SeaWorld. I'm not interested. I've never liked animals in captivity. And watching the documentary, it changed me. I immediately, excuse me. Immediately, I knew I have to do more research. And then that led me on to watch the documentary called Earthlings. It's narrated by Joaquin Phoenix. And it talks about the animals as they're part of us. We're not here and the animals are down here. We're all in an ecosystem where they're also earthlings. They're living creatures. They communicate. They reproduce. They have feelings. And in the documentary, they talk about leather. And by this time, I was already plant-based. By the time I watched it, everything happened also within a month to 2 months, plant-based to vegan. And then when I watched a documentary and he talked about leather and the leather industry, I went into my closet to get rid of leather products. And when I got into my high-end leather shoes, I was obsessed also with shoes. I've always been obsessed with shoes my whole life. When I got into my high-end shoes and I realized that they were all made with leather, I thought, oh my God, I got to get rid of them. I have to sell them. Let me go online and buy some luxury vegan shoes. And when I couldn't find them, when I couldn't find what I was looking for, then I started thinking, well, maybe someone can make the shoes for me. And then that evolved into, let me start a brand. But it was a very slow process. But that day, I knew right away, I'm not wearing these shoes with leather anymore. Let me look for an alternative.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sounds like a kind of good journey you've been on. I'm going to play devil's advocate with the veganism for a minute. So you said that one of the main reasons you've become vegan is because animals are other beings on the earth, and therefore we should treat them with as much respect as we do humans. My question then, to play devil's advocate, would be, in the animal kingdom, animals eat and kill each other all the time. So what is the difference between, say, a lion hunting a gazelle and eating a gazelle, and us hunting, or farming, I suppose I should say, cows, pigs, and that's the sort like that? What is the difference, and why is there this additional responsibility on humans to care for other animals?
Sure. So there are, like you said, tiger hunting. If they're eating each other, that's okay. That's part of the animal kingdom. Kill themselves, and reproduce, etc. in the wild. The problem with that we feel vegans, there's an overconsumption of farming animals for our consumption, for our needs. Cows are artificially inseminated constantly to keep the cycle of cows being bred for dairy, then from the leather industry. It's not natural what happens with in the agricultural field. That makes sense? The cows are in a farm. I mean, I'm Dominican. I grew up in the Dominican Republic. We had animals in the backyard, and so I understand animals in the wild and raising them if we live in a rural community, in a rural environment, where the animals are taken care of, they're, etc. I don't judge people that have to eat the animals. They raise them in their small farms. I'm not one of those vegans that goes, oh, you need to change your ways or so forth. I am not. What I am big advocate is the cruelty that happens in these big farming slaughterhouses. I mean, what goes on is inhumane. If people knew or saw what goes on, they change their ways. I mean, there's a reason why it's illegal to videograph, to record slaughterhouses. Like they won't let you go and see what goes on because they know. The footage that we have, that we see what goes on, is because people have gone in with cameras, secret cameras. Workers have blown the whistle on chicken farms, etc. They're not willingly showing us what's happening.
So your issue more is with the unethical treatment of animals in farming, in mass production that kind of happens. Like you said, you've got artificial insemination, you've got battery farming, especially with like chickens. So that's kind of more your issue then. So if somebody, let's just use me for argument's sake, I don't do this at this point in time anyway, but let's say, for example, I want to eat meat, and to do so I say, right, I'm not going to eat from unethical farms like battery farm chickens, artificially inseminated cows, that sort of thing. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a forest where animals naturally live and hunt them there, and I'm going to kill them in an ethical way and then prepare them in an ethical way. Do you see a moral, ethical issue with that? Or do you feel that veganism is still the best route to go to kind of ensure the ethical treatment of animals?
Always veganism is the way to go. Whenever people ask vegans this question, what would you do though if you were stranded in an island and, you know, they have the pigs around, what are you going to eat? Okay, when will I ever be stranded in an island and where are all these pigs that you guys say that are going to be there? But I am not one of those vegans that shuns people if I'm at a table and you're eating meat and I'm going to be offended. Not at all. I am not one of those vegans on a high mountain pointing fingers at people, judging people. That has never been the way that I operate with anything that I ever do in life. And I understand that fishermen live off the fish and people fish for, you know, to eat. That's what they have. They don't have any other option. Who am I to say, oh, you can't fish anymore, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, there are people in Peru that are cutting the wool of the llamas to make cashmere sweaters and so forth, to sell them. You know, that's their livelihood. I can't come here and say, well, find another way to make money or to sustain your family. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a different kind of vegan.
Yeah, no, you definitely sound different to what a lot of people perceive vegans to be, for sure. You know, you're very...
Bad rap, but it's because a lot of vegans become so, like, judgmental.
Yeah, that's exactly what I find. And I don't have a problem with, I'm going to say, your type of veganism, for lack of a better phrase. It's you in yourself, you are vegan, and you accept that you believe vegan to be the most ethical way to live, but you're not going to force it on other people. And that's kind of the big issue I have with a lot of vegans I speak to, is them forcing their belief system on other people. And to clarify, that's the same as my belief about Christians or any religious person, actually. If you're forcing your belief system on somebody else, I then feel that it's wrong, regardless of whether it's veganism, you know, regardless of whether it's the fact that you eat meat or like a certain type of music or you're religious. It doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, now that brings me very nicely onto my next question then as well. And have you ever faced the common stereotypes of being vegan that we've just discussed? And if you have, why do you think it is, and how can you work to change these stereotypes on both your personal life and on a larger scale?
Yeah, so going back to the stereotype, if I'm eating somewhere and I order something that's vegan, people at first would look at me like going, is she going to be offended if I think it would also be the same way if I didn't drink alcohol and then you don't know how to operate around someone that's either an alcoholic or a former alcoholic, and then you're like, do I order the wine? Do I get, you know, when I order the Cosmo? So everyone that knows me knows you can order whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not offended. I'm not going to go like, oh my God, telling the waiter, can you tell the chef to cook my food separate from her food or something? You know, I'm not like that, you know, crazy person. What other, people assume that if you're vegan, I don't know, you're like a hippie, that you don't, I don't know, shower, wear deodorant, that you don't care about how good your hair looks. And that's something where, in the luxury market, for example, I'm very particular with, again, my packaging and the presentation. I have ordered as a customer, you know, from other vegan brands, and I'm like, you know what? I miss the packaging from when I used to order from Louis Vuitton, from Tom Ford, from Prada. Can vegans, do you guys not think that vegans also want that same luxury feel of the packaging, the containers, even if it's vegan? I think the misconception is that once we go vegan, we become tree huggers, and I don't know. Now we want everything to be made of, I don't know, leaves and bamboo or something.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. So it's just that big, yeah, like the big overarching kind of misconception of, well, if you're vegan, you don't care about quality. You just want it to be good for the animals. So how do you think we can go about then changing those perceptions and educating people and sort of sitting them down and saying, like, look, like these people may be vegan, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want quality. How can you kind of go about changing that perception?
I think eventually my goal is to create a lifestyle brand where we offer handbags and beauty products. I think it will just be my brand growing and then other brands also doing the same. Where people will see it grow, like Airbnb, for example, Uber, and then you see other brands say, oh, that works for her, or that worked for her. Let me replicate it, or let me copy, or let me imitate it. I mean, I have seen things that I have done with my brand that other brands have, I don't want to say copy, but I have seen things that I've done or I'm doing with my brand being done in brands that are not vegan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
People are watching and they're going, I like that. She's making strides, or, you know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're now seeing these vegan practices actually taking form in non-vegan brands. Do you think then, once we've seen brands like yours grow, will we start to see more vegan and ethical practices in some of the big luxury brands? You know, you mentioned Louis Vuitton, Prada, Chanel. Will we see more and more vegan practices within these bigger companies once they become more mainstream?
Oh yes, I see it already. I'm part of many groups, vegan groups, branding, and emails, and I know that there's a push for luxury brands to accommodate vegans, and I know it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the wave coming. When I started the brand, or when I thought about the brand in 2016, there weren't that many high-heeled vegan shoes in the market. There were some, but they weren't like what I'm making. They looked a little, I want to say, dowdy. They didn't look, they weren't stilettos, for example. And now, if you type in vegan heels, you will see that there are more in the market. So I think the waves are changing. Things are progressing for us.
Absolutely. You're definitely seeing a lot more both vegan luxury shoes and just vegan luxury brands in general. So once we are seeing a big wave, once this wave kind of hits and we're seeing a lot of, let's say, vegan luxury shoe brands, how are brands like yours going to work to compete in this new, bigger niche that they're now finding themselves in?
I think for a lot of consumers, they go with heritage, and they go with, oh, well, she's been doing it for a lot longer, or this much longer than this other brand. I think that there is something to be said about, well, I had the right idea back when no one else was doing it this way. And I think to create fresh, innovative products as well. Not be stuck in, I had one design that sold very well, let me make it again and again and again. Innovate, introduce new products, new categories into the business. I think that will always keep you fresh and keep your brand in people's peripherals constantly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's all about having that kind of building that established reputation while continuing to adapt and innovate. I completely agree. Where are you finding your inspiration then for your designs and for your future improvements in your business?
I have always relied on Pinterest. I don't know, I love Pinterest. I am a thrifter. I love going to thrift stores and find vintage pieces. My house is very modern, but I also love vintage pieces. Yeah, just looking at, but not looking at shoes. I never look at handbags or shoes to get inspiration. I look at jewelry pieces, textile, fabric, and then I get the inspiration.
So you're taking inspiration from other products or other industries and then applying them to your own products.
Exactly. There's always an element of something in a magazine. There's something will catch my eye, and then I think, oh, maybe if I put this element as a buckle, and if I do this as a rhinestone over here, yeah, that's how I get my idea.
Interesting. I like it, and it will definitely help you come up with a lot of very unique and interesting ideas, I think. So, yeah, that should be good. The other thing I wanted to touch on then is actually Pinterest, because I'm a big fan of Pinterest, and it's definitely growing, especially in like the luxury industry, because it's very, 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 well, it's obviously a very visual platform, similar to Instagram, but it's kind of got a better search engine, I find, and it has unique features that really appeal to luxury brands. So I'm kind of curious, how are you specifically using Pinterest to market your luxury brand, and what kind of success have you found from it so far?
Yes, great question. I have been obsessed with Pinterest since before people were obsessed with Pinterest. I've been pinning since 2013, and I think that's when Pinterest started, actually. I would literally spend hours on Pinterest. Before I had an Instagram account, I was on Pinterest. And so I have two accounts on Pinterest. I have a personal one that no one knows what I'm pinning, what's going on. And then I have my brand Pinterest account. I don't have, to answer your question, I paid for Pinterest ads. I have had return on investment with Pinterest. I have had up to 1,000 visitors to the website a day from Pinterest, from pins. I've been slacking a little bit lately, but Pinterest is amazing. If you can hire someone to work your Pinterest account, or if you can do it on your own, it's the return on investment. And like you said, it's so easy to search the product, the hashtag, the captions. Your brand will grow, and your customer brand awareness will push your brand forward because through Pinterest.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've seen from a lot of luxury brand owners. And two of the biggest things I love about Pinterest is, number one, it works so nicely with a blog if you're running a blog, and it's so easy to just integrate the two. And secondly, it's one of those platforms that if you actually put time into engaging on the platform, you get returns for that engagement. It's kind of the same with LinkedIn at the moment. You could spend 4 hours a day on Instagram and you're going to see some return on that, but you're not going to see very much return for your based on how much time you're actually spending on the platform. But if you go on platforms like Pinterest or LinkedIn and you spend an hour a day engaging on it, or even hours a day if you enjoy it, then you're going to see a direct return on that investment in the form of website visits or sales, or even just people messaging you interested about your brand.
And also Pinterest, their customer service, amazing. They are so quick. You can ask them what's today's date, and someone will respond immediately. I mean, for if you have a business and you have a business page on Pinterest entirely, you can ask someone a question and you will get an immediate response. If you're running ads on the platform, someone will call you personally and talk to you about their ads and what are you doing and the return on investment. They're like you could literally speak to someone from Pinterest if you needed to at any given time. I love that.
That's really interesting. That's definitely, I think we're definitely seeing a massive trend, especially with like social media platforms moving more towards like instant communication. I know that some platforms are opting for the instant messaging features on their websites, and obviously the fact that Pinterest are actually calling their customers that are paying for ads, that's fantastic.
They call. They set up meetings. They call you. They talk to you. They're a real person.
See, this is the exact kind of marketing customer follow-up that's going to get platforms like Pinterest repeat customers, and it's going to start seeing a larger growth in users on Pinterest, and not only in users but in people willing to pay for ads on Pinterest. So that's absolutely fantastic.
I love that I've spent incredibly high amounts of ads on the Facebook platform with Instagram. Not once has anyone ever said, hey, you spent X amount of money. Do you want to talk? Do you want me to give you some pointers? Do you think you need help or, etc.? But Pinterest does that. They actually, it's a real person engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've kind of noticed that, not to bash Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook and Instagram, if they do give pointers or you ask a query, they kind of then try and use that to upsell you and to try and get you to just pay more for ads. Whereas when I've spoken to people about LinkedIn advertising, they're kind of more willing to actually offer tips that are going to get you more for your money. So they're not saying, right, spend an extra £100, £20, however much. They're saying, oh, tweak this bit of copy or add these graphics in so that you can get more value for your money. And I think that's what people want more nowadays, and ultimately it's obviously better for you as the business owner.
Exactly, that's how Pinterest is. I've never used LinkedIn ads, but that's how Pinterest is. They'll help you.
Yeah, I'm finding a lot of these similarities with like growing upcoming platforms that maybe aren't as popular as Facebook and Instagram. So that's why, Pinterest and LinkedIn, I think right now are the two biggest contenders for seeing massive growth on social media. TikTok right now I'm seeing big growth, but equally I'm not seeing the same level of customer response with platforms like Pinterest and LinkedIn.
You're right. I'm not on TikTok. I think I should be, but yeah, Pinterest works great. Like I said, I've had up to 1,000 new visitors on the website a day. Whenever I'm on Pinterest. When I started the brand, I was on Pinterest, and you don't need to be on Pinterest, like you said, a lot. No. You just use the platform 15, 20 minutes. You upload new content, 5 or 10 new photos a day, and that'll be enough. Your page.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the beautiful thing about this is another reason why I like Twitter as well, is the repinning or the retweeting elements of them. When you think, 5 or 10 pictures a day, like that sounds like a lot, but realistically, if you're on the platform for 15 minutes, you can upload 2 unique pictures, which are just high quality pictures you've taken. The rest can just be repins or retweets that you can just kind of, and it's just content that's already made for you, and you're going to get more engagement for that because you're interacting with other users. And I think that's the real beautiful thing. It's a very interactive platform.
Yeah. I have boards for my products, and I have boards for ideas that are similar to my brand, and I could be home eating and I'll start repinning other people's pins also, just to push the algorithm and to keep the platform engaged.
Fantastic. Okay, right, this brings me on to my last question then. So, which luxury brand or luxury brand owner or owners are most influential and inspiring to you, and why?
Great question. Chanel, either Gabrielle Coco Chanel, her as the designer. She introduced the little black dress. They're inspiring. And also the brand. I love how it's a family-owned brand. They're not owned by big, they're still family-owned. And everyone hears the name Chanel, and it's not diluted, the brand. You can say some things about Chanel. I will say the same things about Chanel. We all have the same idea of what the brand represents in the luxury market and what they offer. And then my second, I have more than okay. Hermes, again, family owned. They have been in the business for so many years. Their grandkids, great-great-grandkids, their kids are still running the brand, the CEOs of the brand. I love their marketing. I love their branding. I love how they do what they do.
Hmm.
And then I think my third one would be Tom Ford, because he's an American. He was, before I started in the fashion industry, I was an actress in Hollywood in LA, and Tom Ford was also an actor, and he's a director now, wrote a screenplay, a screenwriter. And what he's done with his brand and the Tom Ford name as an American designer, I admire him.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. It's good that you've got inspiration to draw from, because at the end of the day, inspiration can be motivation. So, obviously, the first two examples that you mentioned, Chanel and Hermes, they are both, as you said, family-owned brands, and they have continued to be family-owned brands throughout their life. What do you feel are the biggest benefits to having a family-owned brand and having your children and your children's children running your business?
I think for not just in the luxury market, I think that when you grow up with your parents running a business, you know the ins and outs of the brand and of the business better than if you were someone that was brought in to work for that brand and you're an outsider. I mean, the things that are spoken in the house where people are eating about the brand, the sales, what's working, what's not working, are so intimate that if you're the child and the grandchild of someone that's running the brand, you have firsthand knowledge of what's working, what doesn't work, and how to make it better, and how to always keep it the same. And so I think that with them, because no one from outside has come in to say, well, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. It doesn't dilute the message. They've been running on their same ethos and the brand's DNA from the very beginning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You all have that same value system, the same shared kind of experiences of the brand, so therefore you know what to do to continue that kind of experience. So is that something you would want to implement then in your brand? Do you want to keep it a family-owned brand if possible?
I wish. I only have one son, and I don't want to have any more. But I hope that he can continue the brand. I know with Hermes, I think it was don't quote me, I think it was the wife of one of the sons, the grandsons, that came out with the Birkin bag. I'm not sure. So even if my son doesn't continue it, maybe his wife continues the brand. But yeah, I'd love to stay family owned forever.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely something that all business owners should at least strive for. I know it's not always possible, but yeah, no, that sounds good then. Hopefully your son or your son's wife can carry on your brand and continue growing your vision. And obviously with the next generation or the generation after that taking over and running a luxury brand or any brand, you're going to see some big adaptations and changes with that. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think is the next step, as in what are we going to be seeing in 30 years' time with luxury brands?
In general?
Just generally speaking, or specifically with vegan brands, if you would like to.
I think in general, I don't know, but I think eventually luxury brands are going to be much more reserved with social media. I don't know. I think Bottega Veneta, they deleted their Instagram. I think the creative director over there said, no, not too much of this Instagram tagging, etc. Let's scale back. I think Chanel does some of that as well. They don't have highlights on their Instagram. There's different things that Chanel does that they're like, we don't want to be like you guys. And so I think that at some point, luxury brands are going to be very, very strict and very secretive and very a lot more discerning on the customers that they let into their groups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so just more exclusive, because I think that's one of the big challenges for luxury brands is you obviously want to be on social media because it's fantastic for reach and building the reputation of a brand, but then you risk by being present on all social media platforms, let's say it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever it might be. If you're on all platforms, then you risk diluting your brand and making it seem accessible to everyone, which is obviously the opposite of what most luxury brands want to do.
Yeah, exactly. You said it very perfectly. And I think that event in a few years, it'll be a lot more exclusive, a lot more. You can only buy the product if you come to the stores, if you come to the retail locations. I know now with the pandemic, there has been a push for buying online and buying products online and the retail experience, 3D virtual experience. But I think that for luxury brands, it will actually be the opposite. It'll be come to the store to buy this only. You know, you can only buy this if you come to the store. I think.
Yeah.
My projection.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense because, I mean, at the end of the day, even with a virtual boutique, you can't replicate the experience that you can have in an in-person boutique. That's just not possible. So do you think that things like the pandemic, lockdown, COVID will actually affect that kind of change, or do you think it's just delayed the inevitable slightly?
It's just delayed. I think there's, for example, in the footwear industry, I can showcase the shoe as much as possible and show it and so forth, but there's an element of trying on the product and trying it before you buy it. It's necessary to either be in retail, to have retail location, to have your product somewhere where the customers can try it on. I don't think that will ever go away.
Do you think, because technology, for all we know, could, I mean, to be fair, we're already seeing it. With technology, you are able to try on or try on clothes that you are not there when you're not there physically. You know, you can try on an item of clothing, like a t-shirt, for example. Do you think, if we assume that technology is going to progress to the point where you could try on shoes, even if it is in VR, AR, do you think then at that point boutiques will become obsolete, or do you think there will still be that need?
No, it will still be the need. I think also with boutiques and the fine experience, if you go to these stores and the smell gets you, the ambiance, the sales associate, maybe they offer you a glass of water, champagne, coffee, the whole experience. The Dior Cafe here in Miami is so popular because, also breakfast at Tiffany's. The whole experience of going to the retail location, being treated, I don't think that will ever go away. I think people love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think also it's that element of the social kind of experience that you have, because it's not just that you go there and you have this luxury experience, it's that you're sharing this luxury experience with other luxury people, and it's kind of that sense of community that you simply can't have over VR or AR or video chat, Zoom, Skype. You can't have it in the same way. There's that human connection is so powerful for any brand, especially luxury brands.
Exactly. You said it exactly what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, that kind of covers all of my questions then. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of touch on or ask before we head off?
No, I think, no.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you for coming on, Suveria. You've answered all of my questions fantastically, and it's been absolutely amazing talking to you. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. No problem at all. The pleasure is all mine. So, thank you, and I will see you guys next week.